We just heard from local law enforcement officials minutes ago, as well as Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools leadership regarding Tuesday's incident at North Forsyth High School. Joshua Davis joins us live from where that press conference took place with more on what investigators had to say. Joshua.
Well, Lindsay, we have a clearer picture of the timeline of events of what exactly led up to that fatal stabbing. We heard from Lieutenant Sloan of the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office. He said an SRO assigned to North Forsyth responded to that stabbing. He attempted life-saving measures, but unfortunately and tragically, that student died on scene. The second student transported to a hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. After interviewing dozens of witnesses and reviewing surveillance footage, he says that investigators learned and tell us that the physical altercation they initially told us about occurred over a THC vape pen. They told us that the knife belonged to the decedent and that the one decedent, suffered from a fatal stab wound to the chest. We also heard from District Attorney Jim O'Neill, who told us that the two young men at the heart of this incident knew each other. Apparently, they were friends. He says there is no enemy to punish, no friend to reward. Apparently, he also says that the other victim in this case, the other 18-year-old who was hurt and injured, will not be facing any criminal charges. And here's what he had to say about part of that altercation.
During the course of that altercation, both hands are on the knife. The knife comes up and punctures our 16-year-old one time through the sternum and through the heart. This was not an intentional act on behalf of the 18-year-old. It was not. There's not a shred of evidence to suggest that this was anything more than an accident.
Again, that was Jim O'Neill that you just heard right there. He also mentioned how the 18-year-old had the right to use self-defense when the knife was produced and when he tried to wrestle it away. He also mentioned how that 18-year-old and his family are allegedly the subject of threats. He says that is totally inappropriate based on this investigation, and shared that if anything is to happen, any retaliation, any sort of revenge, that the people at the heart of that will be prosecuted and face the consequences, and they will be harsh. Kelly Kendall is currently inside working to get answers to more questions that we have in regards to the use of metal detectors, as well as what exactly happened during the parent reunification process. We'll bring you those updates on air and online on WXII12.com. But for now, in front of the Forsyth County Courthouse, I'm Joshua Davis for WXII 12 News.
All right, Joshua, thank you. As he just mentioned, our Kelly Kendall also at that press conference for us. We continue our team coverage with her live now. And Kelly, you were able to ask a few questions yourself.
Lindsay, that's right. There's been a lot of attention after this incident about the use of metal detectors, particularly were they at North Forsyth on Tuesday and were they being used? The answer, no. There were no metal detectors that could have detected the knife used in this case. Now, Winston-Salem Forsyth County officials say that they are going to be ramping up daily physical security at middle and high schools. But right now, there are not enough open gate weapon detection systems to be used at all of those schools. However, there are going to be other measures put in place that are going to be ramped up on a daily use. But Sheriff Bobby Kimbrough mentioned that this goes beyond just metal detection, physical security. Him speaking during the press conference.
There's some things we need to fix. The question was, are metal detectors, are they working? Were they working? The answer was no, they weren't using them that day. And some of our probably saying, well, why weren't they? Well, did we forget that we want administrators? We want them to teach. We want them to be security experts. But did we forget the shortage that we created when we sent so many people home? Did we forget the number of personnel in the school system, that you don't have people in the school to take on those tasks? regardless of how we got there, all those things are contributing factors. They are.
These questions about the level of physical security and the number of personnel in school comes amid the discussion of the ongoing multi-million-dollar budget crisis facing Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. Superintendent Dr. Don Phipps, who has just recently come into the job, was asked about the potential effects of staffing being reduced this year and how that played into the ability of the school, North Forsyth, to respond to this incident. While he couldn't say there was a certain number of people who were cut this past fall, he did say that any reducing of staff puts additional pressures on schools and makes it harder to respond to these kinds of incidents. In terms of the parent-student reunification process, he said that the community was notified immediately of the incident when it happened, but he said that in those scenarios, there is no amount of information that can be provided in those moments to satisfy parents and other members of the community who may be worried about what happens because of the ongoing investigation. But he did say that those emergency procedures are actively being reviewed, everything from preventing these incidents from happening in the first place to the response to the parent reunification process. These are going to be ongoing conversations, according to Dr. Phipps, but this is what we know right now. Security will be ramped up at middle and high schools, but again, there is not enough open gate weapon detection systems, other forms of security that will be put in place and ramped up immediately. We're also told that at North Forsyth High School tomorrow, where students will be returning to class, that the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office and other law enforcement agency will be there. There will also be help teams on the ground to support students who may not be doing great in the aftermath of this, having lost a peer. For now, live in the Forsyth County Courthouse, I'm Kelly Kendall for WXII 12 News.
Kelly, thank you. We are continuing to learn more about the 16-year-old Cameron Graham, who he was. His aunt, Charlita Summers, says that Cameron was a good boy who loved sports and was a beacon of light in the community. It was on Tuesday morning when Summers got that call that something happened at North Forsyth High School, and she rushed over to the school with her mother. Eventually, they were told by law enforcement that Cameron was no longer alive. Summers shared with us that words cannot express how she feels, and a chunk of her is no longer here.
My heart is heavy. I'm heartbroken. My family members, they are heartbroken. My mom, she is heartbroken. That was her grandson. She loved him and she raised him the best way that she knew how. And Cameron, he was a good, sweet boy. A sweet boy. Everybody loved Cameron. Everybody at the school loved Cameron. Miss Hannah and them, they loved him. I just don't know why somebody would want to do another student like that. That's just beyond me. You know, I couldn't sleep last night. I tossed and turned. I woke up calling out my baby's name.
The family does have a GoFundMe account to help pay for Cameron's funeral expenses. You can find ways to donate on our website at WXII12.com. We're going to continue to follow this story from the community response to the ongoing investigation. You can get those updates here on air as well as on the WXII 12 News app.